Nothing says happily ever after, like your new wife comparing you to her ex-boyfriend on your honeymoon night. I'm Daniel Wright, 38 years old, commercial architect, and apparently the world's biggest sucker. My ex would have gotten me the suite, Juliana said, staring out at the Miami Beach skyline from our standard hotel room. She didn't even bother looking at me when she said it, just kept scrolling through her phone like I wasn't there. Jules, that's what everyone called her, stood there in her silk nightgown, all 5'6" of entitled princess, her blonde hair cascading down her shoulders like she was posing for a magazine. 3 days married, and already I was getting the comparison treatment. Which ex? I asked, though I already knew. Travis Cole, the hedge fund golden boy who drove a Porsche and probably had his suits tailored in Italy, the one who got away according to her college girlfriends. You know which one. She finally turned around, those green eyes flashing with annoyance. Travis always went big, made a girl feel special. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my khakis and polo shirt, because apparently romance was off the table tonight. Well, Travis isn't here. I am. Your husband. Unfortunately, she muttered, but loud enough for me to hear. That word hit me like a slap. Unfortunately. 3 months of wedding planning, $40,000 of my savings, and 2 years of what I thought was love, and I was an unfortunately. What did you just say? Jules waved her hand dismissively. Nothing, Daniel. I'm just tired. This room is so small. Small. Right. The room that cost me $800 a night was small. The room I'd booked 6 months in advance, the one with the ocean view and marble bathroom, was small because it wasn't the penthouse suite. I watched her text someone, probably her best friend Kara, the Instagram influencer who'd been feeding Jules's princess complex since college. Every few seconds, Jules would smile at her phone, the same smile she used to give me when we first started dating. I'm going to get some air, I said, standing up. Take your time, she replied without looking up. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I walked out onto the balcony and stared at the waves crashing against the shore. The Atlantic Ocean stretched endlessly before me, dark and mysterious under the moonlight. 3 days ago, I thought I was the luckiest guy in Florida. I had a successful architecture firm, a beautiful wife, and a future that looked bright. Now I felt like an idiot. My phone buzzed, a text from Will, my best friend since high school and the guy who'd tried to talk me out of this marriage. How's married life, Romeo? I typed back. About as good as a root canal. That bad already? Want to talk? I glanced back through the sliding door. Jules was still on her phone, probably posting about how disappointing her honeymoon was to her 30,000 followers. Tomorrow, I need to think. Don't do anything stupid, Dan. Too late for that, I thought. I already married her. I stayed on that balcony for 2 hours, listening to the ocean and thinking about Travis Cole, the guy who always went big, the guy who made girls feel special, the guy who was probably laughing somewhere about how he'd dodged a bullet when Jules chose me instead. When I finally went back inside, Jules was asleep, curled up on her side of the bed, like she was protecting herself from me. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen down, always screen down these days. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, and something cold settled in my chest. Not anger exactly, but something sharper. Clarity, maybe. My wife thought she'd settled for less. She wanted the penthouse suite and the guy who could afford it without thinking twice. She wanted Travis Cole's life, not Daniel Wright's. Well, maybe it was time to show her exactly what Daniel Wright was capable of. The next morning, Jules was all smiles and sunshine, like the previous night never happened. She wore a white sundress that showed off her tan and took about 50 selfies by the pool. "Isn't this perfect?" she said, posing with her mimosa. Post this one to your Instagram. Make sure you tag the hotel. I took the photo, but I didn't post it. Instead, I was thinking about the hotel concierge I'd chatted with earlier, a chatty guy named Roberto who seemed to know everyone's business. "Jules," I said, sitting down beside her lounge chair, "what do you really want from this marriage?" She lowered her sunglasses and looked at me like I'd asked her to explain quantum physics. "What kind of question is that?" "A simple one. What do you want?" "I want—" She paused, probably trying to figure out what answer wouldn't start a fight. "I want us to be happy. I want to travel, have nice things, maybe start a family someday." Nice things. What's wrong with wanting nice things, Daniel? I work hard. I deserve to enjoy life. She did work hard, I'd give her that. Jules ran her own event planning business, and she was good at it. But nice things, in Jules's world, meant 5-star everything, designer clothes, and cars that cost more than most people's houses. "Nothing wrong with it," I said. "I just want to make sure we want the same things." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "Of course we do, baby. We're married now. We're a team." A team. Right. That afternoon, while Jules was at the spa getting a couple's massage by herself, apparently I wasn't in the right headspace for relaxation, I had a conversation with Roberto the concierge. "Your wife, she has expensive taste," he said with a knowing smile. "She asked about the penthouse suite 3 times yesterday." "Did she now?" "Oh yes. Wanted to know if there were any cancellations, if we could upgrade you. I told her it was booked solid, but—" He leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, we had a cancellation this morning. Presidential suite, $2,500 a night." $2,500. More than I made in a week sometimes, depending on the projects. "That's a lot of money," I said. "For some people." Roberto shrugged. "But you know what they say. Happy wife, happy life. Happy wife, happy life." The motto that had gotten me into this mess in the first place. I spent the rest of the afternoon walking the beach, thinking about Travis Cole and penthouse suites and wives who said, "unfortunately," when they talked about their husbands. By the time I got back to the room, I'd made a decision. Jules was getting ready for dinner, applying makeup in the bathroom mirror. She'd changed into a black dress that probably cost more than my car payment. "Where were you?" she asked. I tried calling. Thinking. About what? I sat on the bed and watched her in the mirror. Even annoyed with me, she was beautiful. That was the problem. I'd been so dazzled by the package that I'd ignored what was inside. About us. About what you said last night. Her hand paused with the mascara wand halfway to her lashes. "Daniel, I was tired. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." She turned around, and for a moment, I saw something like fear in her eyes. Like she knew she'd pushed too far and was about to face consequences. "You meant every word," I continued. "Travis would have gotten you the suite. Travis would have made you feel special. Travis, Travis, Travis. That's not—" I called him today. The mascara wand clattered into the sink. "You what?" "I called Travis. Had a nice long chat. Turns out he's been wondering how you were doing, especially since he heard about our wedding." Jules's face went white beneath her foundation. "Daniel, whatever you think you know, I know you've been texting him. I know you had lunch with him 2 weeks before our wedding. I know you told him you weren't sure you were making the right choice." It was a bluff, but her expression told me I'd hit close to the mark. "How did you—" She stopped herself, but it was too late. "How did I what, Jules? How did I find out that my wife has been keeping in touch with her ex? How did I discover that the woman who promised to love and honor me thinks she settled?" She straightened up, and I watched her switch from scared to defiant in real time. "You went through my phone." "I didn't have to. You're not as subtle as you think. You have no right to spy on me, Daniel. We're married, not joined at the hip." "You're right. We're married, which means we're supposed to be honest with each other. So let me ask you again, What do you really want from this marriage? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I actually knew versus how much I was guessing. I want you to stop being paranoid and jealous, she said finally. Travis is ancient history. Is he? Yes. Then you won't mind if I join you for lunch tomorrow. I believe you're meeting him at that little cafe on Lincoln Road. The color drained from her face completely. I thought so, I said, standing up. Enjoy dinner. I'm going for a walk. I left her standing there in the bathroom, mascara smeared and mouth hanging open, and walked out of the hotel into the warm Miami night. My phone was ringing before I made it to the street. Dan, what the hell is going on? Will's voice crackled through my phone as I walked along Ocean Drive, neon lights painting the sidewalk in electric blues and pinks. My wife is having an affair. Whoa, slow down. Are you sure? I ducked into a quiet bar and found a corner booth. The place was full of tourists and locals, everyone laughing and having a good time. Everyone except me. She's been texting her ex, meeting him for lunch, comparing me to him since day one of our marriage. That doesn't necessarily mean, Will, trust me. I know. There was a pause. Will had been a cop for 15 years before he retired and started his security consulting business. He knew the signs as well as I did. What do you want to do about it? That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want to do? I want to make her regret it. Dan, not like that. I'm not going to hurt anyone. But she thinks she can play me for a fool? She thinks Travis Cole is such a prize? Maybe it's time she found out what she's really choosing. What does that mean? I ordered a beer and thought about it. What did it mean? I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. Which is? The penthouse suite, the high-roller lifestyle, everything Travis Cole could give her. I don't follow. She wants to feel special. She wants the suite. She's going to get it. All of it. And then she's going to lose it all. Will was quiet for a moment. That sounds expensive. It will be, but some lessons are worth the cost. When I got back to the hotel room 3 hours later, Jules was waiting up. She'd changed into pajamas and washed off her makeup, looking younger and more vulnerable. Daniel, we need to talk. No, we don't. I started packing my suitcase. What are you doing? Checking out. We're going home. But we have 2 more days. No, Jules, you have 2 more days. I'm leaving. You can stay here and text Travis all you want. She grabbed my arm. Please don't do this. Let me explain. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then up at her face. For a split second, I almost caved. She looked so sorry, so desperate. Then I remembered her saying, unfortunately, when she talked about being married to me. There's nothing to explain. You made your choice a long time ago. Now I'm making mine. What does that mean? It means you're going to get everything you want, Jules. Everything. I finished packing and headed for the door. Daniel, wait, I turned back. Enjoy the rest of your honeymoon. I'll see you at home. The drive back to our house in Coral Gables took 4 hours. 4 hours of thinking, planning, and getting angrier with every mile. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Our house was a 3-bedroom Mediterranean-style place I'd bought before I met Jules. It wasn't a mansion, but it was nice. Tile roof, palm trees, a pool in the back. Jules had redecorated everything when she moved in, turning it from a bachelor pad into something that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I sat in my car for a few minutes, looking at the house and thinking about the mortgage payments, the utility bills, the insurance, everything that came with being a responsible adult, everything Travis Cole probably never worried about because he had family money and a trust fund. Well, if Jules wanted to live like Travis Cole's girlfriend, she was going to find out what that really cost. I went inside and straight to my home office. My laptop was still open from the morning before we left for Miami, showing the blueprints for a new shopping center I was designing. Instead of working on the project, I opened a new browser window and started researching. First stop, the hotel in Miami. I called Roberto, the concierge. "Mr. Wright, how was dinner?" "Roberto, is that penthouse suite still available?" "The presidential?" "Yes, sir. The guests checked out this morning." "I want to book it. For my wife, she's staying through Sunday." "Wonderful. She'll love it. Should I arrange the upgrade now?" "Yes. And Roberto? I want you to send her champagne, flowers, the works. Make it look like someone who really cares about her arranged it." "Of course, sir. Very romantic." If only he knew. Next, I called my bank. $2,500 a night for 3 nights, plus all the extras, would cost me close to $10,000. Money I didn't really have to spare, but money I was willing to spend to make a point. Then I started the real research. Travis Cole wasn't hard to find online. His hedge fund had a website with his bio, and he was all over social media. Harvard MBA, family money, never married. The kind of guy who collected expensive toys and beautiful women like trophies. I found his address, a penthouse condo in Brickell, overlooking Biscayne Bay. I found photos of his Porsche, his yacht, his vacation house in the Hamptons. I found pictures of him at charity galas with various model types hanging on his arm. And I found something else. Something interesting. Travis Cole was engaged to a woman named Tiffany Morrison, daughter of a real estate mogul. The engagement had been announced in the society pages 6 months ago. 6 months ago. Right around the time Jules started acting distant. My phone rang. Jules. "Daniel, oh my God, you got me the suite." She sounded breathless with excitement, like a kid on Christmas morning. "I wanted you to have what you deserved. It's incredible. The view, the champagne, everything. I can't believe you did this." "Believe it. I'm so sorry about earlier. About everything. You're the most wonderful husband in the world." "Am I?" "Yes. I love you so much. I can't wait to come home and show you how much." "I can't wait either." After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. Phase 1, complete. Jules was getting her taste of the high life, courtesy of her boring, unromantic husband. Now, for Phase 2. I called Will. "How did it go with the wife?" "She's currently enjoying a $10,000 weekend in a penthouse suite, thinking I'm the most wonderful husband in the world." "And that helps you how?" "Because tomorrow, she's going to find out what it really costs to live like that, and she's going to have to choose." "Choose what?" "Whether she wants to be married to Daniel Wright, the architect who saves up for nice vacations, or Travis Cole, the trust fund baby who doesn't think twice about dropping 10 grand on a weekend." "Dan, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to give my wife everything she thinks she wants, and then I'm going to let her discover what she's really giving up to get it." The next morning, I drove to Jules's office. She ran her event planning business out of a small suite in downtown Miami, and her assistant Maya was always good for information. "Mr. Wright, how's the honeymoon?" "Educational," I said. "Is Jules's calendar open this week? I want to plan something special." Maya pulled up the schedule on her computer. She has a consultation Wednesday and the Morrison wedding prep meetings Thursday and Friday. Morrison, as in Tiffany Morrison, Travis Cole's fiancée. The Morrison wedding? Oh yes, it's going to be huge. Tiffany Morrison is marrying some finance guy. Jules is so excited. It's exactly the kind of high-end event that could really put us on the map. I bet it is. The budget is insane. Like $500,000 just for flowers. Can you imagine? I could imagine. I could imagine Jules planning the wedding of the woman whose fiancé she was texting behind my back. "Maya, can you do me a favor?" "Sure. If anyone calls asking about Jules's schedule, especially any men, can you let me know? I want to surprise her, and I don't want to accidentally double book her." Maya giggled. "Of course. You're such a sweet husband." Sweet, right. I spent the rest of the day doing actual work, trying to focus on blueprints and building codes instead of cheating wives and trust fund rivals. But my phone kept buzzing with texts from Jules, each one more effusive than the last. The bathroom has a TV in the mirror. Room service brought me lobster I didn't even order. I feel like a princess. A princess. That was exactly the problem. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Daniel Wright? Who's asking? This is Travis Cole. I think we need to talk. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Hello, Travis. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. Look, I don't know what Jules told you, but she didn't tell me anything. She didn't have to. There was a pause. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? You're engaged to Tiffany Morrison, but you're having lunch dates with my wife. Seems pretty clear to me. It's not what you think. What I think is that you're a spoiled rich boy who likes to collect other people's toys. What I think is that my wife is stupid enough to believe you actually care about her. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. I know exactly who you are, Travis. I know about your trust fund, your daddy's connections, your pretty little fiancé who doesn't know you're cheating on her. I'm not cheating on anyone. Then what do you call secret lunch dates with another man's wife? Silence. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to stay away from Jules. You're going to stop texting her, stop calling her, stop existing in her world. Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure Tiffany Morrison finds out exactly what kind of man she's marrying. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Should I call her right now and ask? The line went quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. What do you want? He said finally. I want you to leave my wife alone. Fine. Done. Good. Oh, and Travis? What? Thanks for helping me figure out what kind of woman I married. It's been very educational. I hung up and immediately called the society photographer who'd covered our wedding. If Travis Cole wanted to play games, I was going to make sure everyone knew the rules. Jules came home from Miami on Sunday night, glowing like she'd won the lottery. She threw her arms around me the moment she walked through the door, covering my face with kisses. You are the most amazing husband in the entire world, she said, pulling back to look at me. I can't believe you did that for me. You said you wanted the suite. I did, but I never expected. Daniel, that must have cost a fortune. Some things are worth it. She kissed me again, and for a moment I almost forgot why I was angry with her. Almost. I have something to tell you, she said, taking my hands. I've been thinking about us, about our marriage, and I realize I haven't been fair to you. How so? I've been comparing you to my past instead of appreciating what we have. That was wrong of me. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. She seemed sincere, but then again, Jules had always been good at seeming sincere when she wanted something. What changed your mind? Being in that suite, seeing how thoughtful and generous you are, it made me realize how lucky I am. Travis never would have done something like that. Travis. She brought him up, not me. Why not? Because he only thinks about himself. He's selfish and immature, and I don't know what I ever saw in him. But you had lunch with him 2 weeks ago. She froze. How did you... Maya mentioned it when I stopped by your office. Something about a consultation that got moved. Jules relaxed slightly. It wasn't a consultation. He wanted to talk about Tiffany's wedding. He knows I'm planning it, and he had some requests. What kind of requests? Stupid stuff. He wanted to make sure the flowers weren't too expensive, the menu wasn't too fancy. Apparently his fiancée has champagne taste, and he has a beer budget. That was interesting. Travis Cole, worried about money. I thought he was rich. Jules laughed. That's what everyone thinks. But most of his family's money is tied up in trusts and investments. He lives well, but he doesn't have as much liquid cash as people assume. Huh? Why do you ask? Just curious. You seem to think he had unlimited resources. I was being stupid and nostalgic. The truth is, Travis is all flash and no substance. You're the opposite. You're solid, reliable, successful on your own merit. I'd rather have that any day. She was saying all the right things, but something felt off. Maybe it was the timing, or the way she kept bringing up Travis even while claiming she was over him. I'm glad you feel that way, I said. Because I have a surprise for you. Another surprise? Daniel, you're spoiling me. I booked us a table at Le Bernardin next Friday night. The works, champagne, 7 courses, the whole experience. Her eyes lit up. Le Bernardin was the kind of restaurant Jules had always wanted to try, but we'd never been able to afford. Dinner for 2 would cost more than most people spent on groceries in a month. Really? How did you even get a reservation? They're booked months in advance. I have my ways. What I had was a credit card and a willingness to pay triple the normal price to a reservation service. But Jules didn't need to know that. I can't wait. I need to go shopping for a dress. Get whatever you want. Money's no object. She looked at me strangely. Daniel, are you feeling okay? You're not usually so extravagant. I'm feeling like celebrating. We're newlyweds. We should live a little. I love this side of you. That night, while Jules was in the shower, I checked her phone. I know it was wrong, but I needed to know what I was dealing with. There were no texts from Travis, but there were plenty from Kara, her best friend and biggest enabler. How was the suite? Did Daniel really surprise you with it? It was amazing. I felt like I was in a movie. Maybe you misjudged him. Rich guys can be sneaky about their money. Maybe. He's definitely been acting different since we got back. Different how? More confident, more take charge. It's actually kind of attractive. Well, don't get too comfortable. You know what they say about leopards and spots. What's that supposed to mean? Just that people don't usually change overnight. There's probably a reason he's suddenly Mr. Big Spender. Smart woman, that Kara. Too bad she was also a terrible influence. The next few days were a whirlwind of expensive gestures. I sent flowers to Jules' office every day. Not grocery store bouquets, but elaborate arrangements from the florist who did celebrity weddings. I had her car detailed and filled with premium gas. I bought her a necklace that cost more than my mortgage payment. Jules was over the moon, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. She kept asking where the money was coming from, if I'd gotten a big new client, if I'd been hiding assets from her. I just want us to enjoy life, I told her. We work hard. We deserve nice things. But Daniel, this isn't sustainable. We can't spend like this forever. Why not? Because we're not millionaires. We have a budget, responsibilities, a future to plan for. What if I told you we didn't have to worry about money anymore? What do you mean? What if I told you I'd been working on something big, something that could change everything for us? Her eyes got wide. What kind of something? A development deal. Luxury condos in South Beach. If it goes through, we're talking about enough money to live however we want. It wasn't entirely a lie. I had been approached about a development deal, though it was nowhere near as lucrative as I was implying, and the chances of it actually happening were slim. How much money? Enough to buy our own penthouse, enough to travel first class, eat at the best restaurants, drive whatever cars we want. Daniel, that's incredible. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to get your hopes up until I knew it was real, but my lawyer thinks we'll have an answer by the end of the month. Jules threw her arms around me, and I could practically see dollar signs in her eyes. This is like a dream come true, she said. We could have the life I always imagined. The life Travis could have given you? Better than that. This would be ours, something we built together. The funny thing was, I almost believed her. For a moment, I let myself imagine that she really meant it, that she really wanted to build a life with me, regardless of the money. Then my phone rang. Maya from Jules's office. Mr. Wright? You asked me to call if anyone was asking about Jules's schedule? Yes? Well, this guy Travis called. He wanted to know if she was free for lunch tomorrow to discuss the Morrison wedding. What did you tell him? That I'd have to check with Jules. But I thought you should know first. Thanks, Maya. Don't mention it to Jules yet, okay? I want to surprise her with lunch myself. Of course. I hung up and looked at Jules, who was still glowing with excitement about our imaginary fortune. Who was that? She asked. Work stuff. Nothing important. She nodded and went back to planning how we'd spend our millions. Meanwhile, I was planning something entirely different. Travis Cole wanted to have lunch with my wife? Fine. But he was going to get more than he bargained for. I called Will. I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind that involves a camera and a very public restaurant. Dan, what are you doing? I'm giving my wife exactly what she wants, and I'm making sure everyone sees what that really looks like. The next morning, I told Jules I had meetings all day and wouldn't be home until late. She kissed me goodbye and told me she loved me, and I almost felt bad about what I was planning. Almost. At 11:30, I positioned myself across the street from Cafe Prima, the trendy spot where Maya had told Travis that Jules would be available for lunch. Will was with me, along with a camera with a telephoto lens. This feels like stalking, Will said. It's not stalking, it's documentation. Of what? Of my wife's true priorities. At 12:15, Travis Cole pulled up in his silver Porsche. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, tan, perfectly groomed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's rent. At 12:20, Jules arrived in her BMW. She'd changed clothes since the morning, I noticed. The conservative blouse and slacks she'd worn to breakfast had been replaced by a tight dress and heels. There's your documentation, Will said grimly. I watched through the telephoto lens as Travis kissed Jules on both cheeks, European style. I watched as he pulled out her chair and ordered wine. I watched as she laughed at whatever charming thing he was saying. And I took pictures of all of it. Got enough? Will asked after an hour. Not yet. At 1:30, they left the restaurant together. Travis walked Jules to her car, and they stood there talking for another 10 minutes. At one point, he touched her arm, and she didn't pull away. Now I've got enough, I said. That evening, Jules came home full of stories about her busy day, her difficult clients, her impossible deadlines. She didn't mention lunch with Travis. How were your meetings? She asked. Productive, very productive. Good, I'm exhausted. Do you mind if we just order pizza tonight? Actually, I was thinking we could go out, celebrate. Celebrate what? The development deal. My lawyer called this afternoon. It's looking very promising. Her face lit up again. Really? How promising? Promising enough that I think we should start living like the wealthy couple we're about to become. Daniel, we should be careful not to count our chickens. I made us reservations at Nobu, 8 o'clock. Nobu. The kind of place where appetizers cost $50 and the wine list read like a luxury car catalog. That's very expensive. We can afford it. Trust me. She looked conflicted, torn between her excitement about the money and her practical nature. The practical nature that apparently didn't extend to secret lunches with her ex-boyfriend. Okay, she said finally. Let me get ready. While she was upstairs changing, I uploaded the photos from lunch to my computer. Travis and Jules looking very cozy, very intimate, very much like two people who were more than just business acquaintances. I printed out the best ones and put them in an envelope. Then I got dressed for the most expensive dinner of my life. Nobu was everything Jules had ever dreamed of, sleek, sophisticated, full of beautiful people eating beautiful food and pretending money was no object. We sat at a corner table with a view of the bay, sipping sake that cost more per bottle than most people spent on dinner. Jules looked stunning in a black cocktail dress she'd bought for the occasion. Her hair swept up to show off the diamond earrings I'd given her for our anniversary. She was glowing with excitement, talking animatedly about the life we were going to have once my fictional development deal came through. "We could buy a boat," she said, gesturing with her chopsticks. "Nothing huge, just something big enough for weekend trips to the Keys." "What kind of boat?" "I don't know. Something elegant, like a yacht, but not too flashy." "Travis has a yacht." She paused with a piece of sashimi halfway to her mouth. "Does he?" "According to his Instagram, 40-foot Sunseeker. Very nice." "I wouldn't know." "No? You didn't discuss boats at lunch today?" The sashimi dropped back onto her plate. "What lunch?" I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos Will had taken. Jules and Travis at Cafe Prima, leaning across the table toward each other, looking very much like two people sharing secrets. "That lunch." Jules stared at the photo, and I watched her face cycle through surprise, panic, and finally defiance. "You had me followed?" "I had you photographed. There's a difference." "This is insane, Daniel. You're acting like some kind of paranoid stalker." "Am I?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like I'm acting like a husband who caught his wife lying to him." The couple at the next table glanced over, drawn by the tension in our voices. Jules noticed and lowered her tone. "It was a business lunch, about the Morrison wedding." "For 2 hours?" "It's a complicated event." "I'm sure it is. Tell me, does Tiffany Morrison know her fiancé is having 2-hour business lunches with other women?" Jules's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that Travis Cole is engaged to be married, and you're planning his wedding while having cozy lunches with him behind both my back and hers." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Jules? Because I'm having trouble understanding why my wife needs to change clothes and put on her best dress for a business lunch with her ex-boyfriend." She looked down at her outfit, realizing how it must appear. "I had other meetings today. I always dress professionally." "Do you? Let me ask you something else. When you were in that penthouse suite in Miami, texting your friends about how wonderful I was being, did you also text Travis to tell him about it?" "No." "Are you sure? Because I can check." "You can't check my phone without my permission." "Actually, as your husband, I can check our phone records. Joint account, remember?" It was a bluff. I hadn't checked our phone records, but her expression told me I didn't need to. "Daniel, please, you're making this into something it's not." "What it is, Jules, is my wife having an affair." "I'm not having an affair." Her voice rose enough to draw more stares. The waiter approached our table, probably wondering if he needed to call security. "Is everything all right here?" "Fine," I said. "Just a marital discussion. Could you bring us the check, please?" "Actually," Jules said, standing up abruptly, "I need some air." She grabbed her purse and headed for the restroom, leaving me sitting there with a table full of expensive food and a restaurant full of curious onlookers. I paid the check, $400 for a meal we barely touched, and went to find my wife. She was outside on the restaurant's patio, talking on her phone. When she saw me coming, she quickly ended the call. "Who was that?" "Kara, I needed someone to talk to." "About what?" "About my husband who's apparently having me followed and going through my personal communications." "Your personal communications with other men." "Travis is not other men. He's a client. He's your ex-boyfriend who you've been meeting in secret." "One lunch is not meeting in secret." "How many lunches have there been, Jules?" She hesitated, just long enough to give me my answer. "I want to go home," she said. "Good idea." The drive back to Coral Gables was silent except for the sound of Jules texting someone. Probably Kara, probably Travis, probably anyone who would tell her she was the victim in this situation. When we got home, she went straight upstairs to our bedroom and closed the door. I heard her on the phone again, her voice low and urgent. I went to my office and opened my laptop. It was time for phase 3 of my plan. I created a new email account and sent a message to Tiffany Morrison, not to Jules's business email, to her personal account, which I found through her social media profiles. "Dear Ms. Morrison, I thought you should know that your fiancé has been having lunch dates with his ex-girlfriend. I've attached photographic evidence. As a fellow spouse-to-be, I felt you deserved to know what kind of man you're marrying. A concerned friend. I attached the photos from Cafe Prima and hit send. Then I called the society photographer who'd covered our wedding. Richard? It's Daniel Wright. I have a story you might be interested in. What kind of story? The kind that involves a prominent hedge fund manager, his wealthy fiancée, and his secret affair with a married woman. I'm listening. Travis Cole. You know him? Of course. Big name in the social scene. Engaged to the Morrison girl. Right. Well, it seems Mr. Cole has been having intimate lunches with my wife while she plans his wedding. Your wife is the event planner? Jules Wright, Wright Events, and I have photos. Send them over. If they're good, I can have them in tomorrow's society blog. They're very good. After I hung up, I sat back and waited. It wouldn't take long for the dominoes to start falling. The first call came at 10:30, Jules's phone ringing upstairs. She answered it quickly, and I heard her voice through the ceiling, high-pitched and panicked. The second call came at 10:45, my phone this time. Is this Daniel Wright? Yes. This is Tiffany Morrison. I think we need to talk. I think you're right. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I have some questions about your wife and my fiancé. I have some answers. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in Coconut Grove, neutral territory, where we could have a civilized conversation about our cheating partners. The third call came at 11:15. Jules, screaming my name from upstairs. Daniel, get up here right now! I found her in our bedroom, laptop open, face flushed with rage. What did you do? About what? You know exactly what. Tiffany Morrison just called me. She's canceling her wedding. That's unfortunate. She said someone sent her photos of Travis and me at lunch. Photos that could have only come from you. Did they? Don't play dumb with me, Daniel. You sent those photos to destroy my business. I sent those photos to expose the truth. What truth? That I had lunch with a client? That you had an affair with your ex-boyfriend while planning his wedding to another woman? It wasn't an affair. Then what was it? She stared at me, and for a moment I thought she might actually tell me the truth. Instead, she went on the attack. It was business, Daniel. Business that you've now destroyed with your jealous, paranoid behavior. Business that you lied about. I didn't lie, I just didn't think you needed to know every detail of my work life. Your work life doesn't usually involve changing into cocktail dresses and gazing lovingly across restaurant tables. I wasn't gazing lovingly at anyone. The photos say otherwise. She slammed the laptop shut. I can't believe you did this. You've ruined everything. I've ruined what, exactly? Your marriage or your affair? There was no affair. Then why are you so upset that it's over? She stared at me, and I could see her trying to come up with an answer that made sense. Finally, she just shook her head. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Good idea. After she left, I lay in our king-size bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I would meet with Tiffany Morrison and find out exactly what Travis Cole had told her about his relationship with my wife. Tomorrow the photos would hit the society blogs, and everyone in Miami would know that the golden couple wasn't so golden after all. Tomorrow, my wife would have to choose between the life she'd built with me and the fantasy she'd been chasing with Travis Cole. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I slept like a baby. Tiffany Morrison was not what I expected. I'd pictured a typical trust fund princess, blonde, plastic, more money than sense. Instead, the woman who walked into the coffee shop in Coconut Grove was brunette, conservatively dressed, and sharp-eyed in a way that suggested she didn't miss much. Mr. Wright? Daniel, and you must be Tiffany. She sat down across from me and got straight to the point. I want to see all the photos. I slid a manila envelope across the table. She opened it and studied each picture carefully, her expression growing colder with every image. How long has this been going on? I'm not sure. I only found out about it recently. But you suspected. My wife has been distant lately, distracted, and she kept comparing me to Travis. Tiffany looked up from the photos. Comparing you how? Unfavorably. According to Jules, Travis would have gotten her the penthouse suite. Travis would have made her feel special. Travis this, Travis that. The penthouse suite? I told her about the honeymoon disaster, Jules's complaints, and my expensive gesture to make amends. You spent $10,000 on a hotel room to make your wife happy? I wanted to save my marriage. And instead you discovered she was cheating on you. Apparently. Tiffany studied the photos again. These were taken yesterday? Yes. Travis told me he was having lunch with his business partner to discuss a new investment opportunity. I guess in a way he was. She didn't smile at my joke. Mr. Wright, Daniel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you think they've been intimate? It was the question I'd been avoiding asking myself. The photos showed emotional intimacy, but not physical proof of an affair. I don't know, I said honestly. But does it matter? She's been lying to me, meeting him in secret, and clearly has feelings for him. Whether they've slept together or not, she's already betrayed our marriage. Tiffany nodded. Travis has been different lately too. Secretive, distracted, working late. I thought it was stress about the wedding, but now… What are you going to do? What any rational woman would do. I'm calling off the wedding. Just like that? Just like that. I'm 32 years old, Daniel. I don't have time to waste on men who can't commit fully to our relationship. I envied her certainty. What about Travis? Have you talked to him? I called him this morning after I got your email. Told him I knew about his lunch date and that we were finished. What did he say? He said it was a misunderstanding, that he could explain everything, that he loved me and wanted to work it out. But you don't believe him. I might have, if he hadn't immediately asked how I found out. A man who's truly innocent doesn't worry about who's watching him. Smart woman. Can I ask you something? I said. Sure. What did you see in him? Travis, I mean. She considered the question. Honestly, I thought he was stable, successful, established, ready to settle down. My father liked him, my friends approved. He looked good on paper. But there was always something missing, a depth, a sincerity. I told myself it would develop over time, that love would grow. I think I was just tired of dating and ready to be married. And now? Now I realize that settling for someone who looks good on paper is a recipe for disaster. Better to be alone than with someone who's always looking for something better. Her words hit closer to home than she probably realized. What about your wife? She asked. What are you going to do? I honestly don't know. Do you love her? I thought I did. But I'm not sure I love who she really is, or just who I thought she was. There's a difference. A big one. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two people whose lives had been turned upside down by the selfishness of others. Daniel, can I give you some advice? Please. Don't make any big decisions while you're angry. Take some time, figure out what you really want, and then act accordingly. But don't let her convince you that this is somehow your fault. Is that what Travis tried to do? Among other things. He said I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that I was sabotaging our relationship because I was afraid of commitment. Classic deflection. Exactly. The truth is, I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of committing to the wrong person. After Tiffany left, I sat in the coffee shop for another hour, thinking about what she'd said. Don't make decisions while angry. Figure out what you really want. What did I want? I wanted a wife who chose me because she loved me, not because I was the safe option while she fantasized about someone else. I wanted a partner who was honest with me, who didn't lie about lunch dates and secret phone calls. I wanted a marriage based on mutual respect and genuine affection, not convenience and financial security. The question was, could I have any of those things with Jules? My phone buzzed. A text from Will. Saw the society blog. Holy crap, man. You really went nuclear. I pulled up the Miami social scene website on my phone. There it was, front and center. Hedge fund heir's wedding canceled after cheating scandal. The article was brutal. Photos of Travis and Jules at lunch, quotes from unnamed sources about their intimate relationship, speculation about the impact on both their careers. The comments section was already filling up with gossip and judgment. My phone rang. Jules. Daniel, you need to see what they're saying online. I've seen it. This is a disaster. My business is ruined. No one's going to hire an event planner who has affairs with her clients' fiancés. Maybe you should have thought of that before you had lunch dates with Travis. It wasn't an affair. How many times do I have to tell you that? Until you tell me the truth. I am telling you the truth. Jules, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the lies, the excuses, the blame shifting. I'm coming home, and we're going to have a real conversation about our marriage. What kind of conversation? The kind where you decide whether you want to be married to me or not. I hung up and drove home, steeling myself for what was probably going to be the most important conversation of my life. Jules was waiting for me in the living room, laptop open, surrounded by tissues. She'd been crying, her makeup smeared, and her hair disheveled. Look at this, she said, turning the laptop toward me. Look what you've done. The screen showed her business website, but instead of inquiries about events, the contact form was filled with nasty messages and accusations. I didn't do this, Jules. You did. I had lunch with a client. You had an affair with your ex-boyfriend. For the last time, it wasn't an affair. Then what was it? She stared at me, and I could see her internal struggle. Part of her wanted to keep lying, to maintain the fiction that she'd done nothing wrong, but another part of her seemed exhausted by the deception. It was... She paused, searching for the right words. It was a mistake. What kind of mistake? Travis called me a few weeks before the wedding. He said he'd heard I was getting married and wanted to congratulate me. We talked for a few minutes, and it was nice, nostalgic. And he asked if I was happy. Really happy, and I told him I was, but you weren't. I was nervous about the wedding, about marriage, about whether I was making the right choice, and he was easy to talk to, familiar. So when he suggested lunch, I said yes. Just lunch. Just lunch. But then we started texting and talking on the phone, and you started having an emotional affair. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for it to happen. I love you, Daniel. I married you because I wanted to be with you. But you also wanted to be with him. I wanted to feel the way I used to feel, young and exciting, and like anything was possible. And I made you feel old and boring and trapped. No, you made me feel safe and loved and secure. But sometimes you wanted more. Sometimes I wondered what my life would have been like if I'd made different choices. I sat down across from her, and for the first time in days, I felt something other than anger. I felt sad. Jules, everyone wonders about the road not taken, but most people don't pursue it while they're married to someone else. I know it was wrong. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I risked our marriage for something that was never real. Was it real to you? She considered the question. It felt real, but it wasn't based on anything substantial. It was just fantasy and nostalgia and escape from adult responsibilities. And what am I? Reality and responsibility and everything that's boring about being a grown-up? You're my husband. You're the man I chose to build a life with. You're the man I promised to love and honor and be faithful to. But you weren't faithful. Not emotionally, no. And now I want to fix this. I want to save our marriage. I want to be the wife you deserve. I looked at her sitting there, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her perfect facade finally cracked. She looked younger, more vulnerable, more like the woman I'd fallen in love with. Jules, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about Travis. This is about the fact that you've been unhappy in our marriage, and instead of talking to me about it, you turned to another man. I know. This is about the fact that you lied to me repeatedly and made me feel like I was paranoid and jealous for noticing. I know. This is about the fact that I've spent the last week wondering if anything about our relationship is real, or if I'm just the safe choice while you pine for someone more exciting. You're not the safe choice, Daniel. You're the right choice. How do I know that? How do I trust you again? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I guess you'll have to decide if our marriage is worth fighting for. And if it is, we'll have to figure out how to rebuild it together. And Travis? Travis is getting married to someone else. Or he was, until today. Actually, Tiffany called off the wedding. Jules looked shocked. She did? This morning, after she saw the photos. Oh God, this really is a disaster. For everyone involved. What happens now? Now you tell me the truth about everything. No more lies, no more omissions, no more half-truths. If we're going to try to save this marriage, it has to be based on complete honesty. She nodded. Okay. And you cut off all contact with Travis. Phone, text, email, everything. If you see him in public, you walk the other way. Okay? And we go to counseling. Both of us. Together and separately. Okay. And Jules? Yes? If you ever lie to me again, if you ever betray my trust again, if you ever make me feel like I'm competing with another man for my own wife's attention, I will leave you. No second chances, no discussions, no attempts to work it out. I will just be gone. She stared at me with wide eyes. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really understand. This is your one chance to decide what you want. If you want to be married to me, really married, then you need to choose that completely. But if part of you is always going to be looking for something else, something more exciting, then you need to let me go now so I can find someone who actually wants to be with me. I want to be with you. Even if it means giving up the fantasy of what your life could have been with someone else? Yes. Even if it means being honest about your feelings instead of pretending everything is perfect? Yes. Even if it means working hard to rebuild trust instead of expecting me to just get over this? Yes. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or doubt. All I saw was a woman who looked exhausted and scared and desperate to save her marriage. Okay, I said finally. Then let's try. She threw her arms around me, sobbing with relief. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us. I held her, but I didn't cry. I wasn't sure yet if I was making the right choice, or if I was just making the safe choice. But I was willing to find out. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the humiliation, I still loved my wife. The question was whether the woman I loved actually existed, or if she was just another fantasy I needed to let go of. Time would tell. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Dr. Patricia Hernandez's office, watching my wife cry for the 3rd time in an hour. Marriage counseling, it turned out, involved a lot more tears than I'd expected. Jules, Dr. Hernandez said gently, can you tell Daniel why you're feeling so overwhelmed right now? Because everything is ruined, Jules sobbed. My business, my reputation, my friendships. People look at me like I'm some kind of homewrecker. And how does that make you feel? Like I want to disappear. Like I want to move somewhere where no one knows what happened. Dr. Hernandez turned to me. Daniel, how do you respond to that? I feel sorry for her, I said honestly. But I also think she's focusing on the wrong things. What do you mean? She's upset about the consequences of her choices, not about the choices themselves. She's worried about what other people think, not about what she did to our marriage. Jules looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you apologized for lying to me? When was the last time you took responsibility for having an emotional affair? I've apologized 100 times. You've apologized for getting caught. You've apologized for the scandal. You've apologized for the impact on your business. But you haven't really apologized for betraying me. Dr. Hernandez leaned forward. Jules, do you think Daniel has a point? Jules was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. I don't know. I'm so confused about everything right now. What are you confused about? About what I really did wrong. I mean, yes, I had lunch with Travis and we texted each other, but we never crossed any physical lines. Do you think physical contact is the only way to betray a marriage? Dr. Hernandez asked. No, but I don't know. I thought I was just talking to an old friend. I felt my jaw clench. An old friend you lied to me about. An old friend you dressed up for. An old friend you shared intimate conversations with while shutting me out. I didn't shut you out. Jules, you stopped talking to me about anything important weeks before the wedding. You were distant, distracted, always on your phone. I felt like I was living with a stranger. I was stressed about the wedding. You were having an affair. It wasn't an affair. Dr. Hernandez held up her hand. Let's take a step back. Jules, I want you to try something. I want you to imagine that Daniel had been having secret lunch dates with his ex-girlfriend, texting her regularly and lying to you about it. How would that make you feel? Jules considered this. I would hate it. Why? Because it would feel like he was choosing her over me, like he was sharing parts of himself with her that should be mine. And how do you think Daniel felt when he discovered your relationship with Travis? Jules looked at me, and for the first time I saw real understanding in her eyes. Like I was choosing Travis over him. Were you? I don't know. Maybe. Not consciously, but part of you was more excited about Travis than about your own husband. She nodded, fresh tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Daniel. I really am. I didn't think about how it would feel from your perspective. It was progress, but I wasn't sure it was enough. The thing is, Jules, I don't know how to trust you again. Every time you're on your phone, I wonder who you're texting. Every time you're late coming home, I wonder where you really were. Every time you seem distracted, I wonder what you're thinking about. I know. I hate that I made you feel that way. So, what are we going to do about it? Dr. Hernandez interjected. That's something you'll both need to work on. Daniel, you'll need to learn to trust again, which takes time and patience. Jules, you'll need to be completely transparent and consistent in your actions. Both of you will need to learn to communicate more effectively about your needs and feelings. What if we can't? I asked. What if the damage is too severe? Then you'll need to decide whether to continue trying or to end the marriage. But I'd recommend giving it at least 6 months of serious effort before making that decision. 6 months. It seemed like both an eternity and no time at all. After the session, Jules and I drove home in silence. Our house felt different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a place where two wounded people were trying to figure out how to coexist. Daniel? Jules said as we pulled into the driveway. Yeah? I know I don't have the right to ask this, but do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment. I don't know. I want to. But forgiveness isn't something I can just decide to do. It's something that happens over time, if it happens at all. What can I do to help it happen? Be honest. Be patient. Be the wife you promised to be when we got married. And if I am? If I do everything right from now on, then maybe we'll make it, or maybe we won't. I can't make you any promises, Jules. You broke something when you chose Travis over me, and I don't know if it can be fixed. She started crying again, but quietly this time. I didn't mean to break anything. I know. But you did. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Jules slept beside me. We'd been sharing the same bed again for a week, but it felt more like a truce than a reconciliation. We were polite to each other, careful, like strangers trying not to give offense. My phone buzzed with a text. Will. How's it going with the counseling? Hard to say. She's starting to understand what she did, but I'm not sure understanding is enough. What would be enough? That was the question, wasn't it? What would it take for me to trust Jules again? What would it take for me to feel like she chose me because she wanted me, not because Travis wasn't available? I don't know, I texted back. Maybe nothing. Maybe some things can't be fixed. You sound like you've already decided. Had I? Maybe I had, and I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was in my home office working on blueprints for a new shopping center when the doorbell rang. Jules was at her office, what was left of her business, so I answered it myself. Travis Cole stood on my doorstep, looking like he hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. I started to close the door, but he put his hand against it. Please, 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He looked around our living room like he was cataloging everything, comparing it to his own life. Nice place, he said. What do you want, Travis? I want you to know that nothing happened between Jules and me. Nothing physical. Congratulations. You want a medal for not sleeping with my wife? I want you to know that she loves you. Whatever you think happened between us, she was never going to leave you. How generous of her. I'm serious. She talked about you constantly. How good you were to her, how stable and reliable you were, how lucky she was to have found you. And yet she kept meeting you for lunch. Because she was scared. Of what? Of marriage, of commitment, of losing her independence. She wasn't having an affair with me, Daniel. She was having a panic attack about her future. I studied his face, looking for signs of deception. He seemed sincere, but then again, so had Jules. Why are you telling me this? Because I feel guilty. Because I encouraged her fears instead of telling her to talk to you about them. Because I was selfish and wanted the attention, even though I knew it was wrong. You were engaged to someone else. I know. And I lost her because of it. Tiffany won't even take my calls. Good for her. I deserved that, but Jules doesn't deserve to lose her marriage because of my selfishness. Jules made her own choices. She made stupid choices, but not malicious ones. She's not a bad person, Daniel. She's just someone who got scared and handled it badly. I wanted to throw him out, to tell him his opinion didn't matter, to make it clear that he'd done enough damage already. But part of me was curious about his perspective. What do you think I should do? I think you should forgive her. I think you should give your marriage a real chance, and I think you should know that she chose you, not me. She chose me because you weren't available. No, she chose you because you're the better man. I'm 46 years old, Daniel, and I've never had a relationship that lasted more than 2 years. You know why? Because I'm selfish and immature, and I've never learned how to put someone else's needs before my own. Jules figured that out, even if it took her a while. And now you're alone. And now I'm alone. But you don't have to be. After he left, I sat in my living room thinking about what he'd said. Jules was scared of marriage, so she'd turned to her ex-boyfriend for comfort. It made sense, in a twisted way. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it explained it. The question was, did explanation equal forgiveness? When Jules came home that evening, I told her about Travis's visit. "He came here?" she asked, alarmed. "He wanted me to know that nothing physical happened between you." "It didn't. He also said you were scared of marriage, and that's why you turned to him." She sat down heavily on the couch. "He's not wrong." "Why didn't you talk to me about it?" "Because I thought you'd think I was crazy. You were so excited about the wedding, so happy about our future. I didn't want to ruin that with my neuroses. So instead, you nearly ruined our marriage. I know, it was stupid. I should have talked to you instead of him." "Yes, you should have." "Daniel, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think we can really get past this? Or are we just going through the motions because neither of us wants to be the one who gives up first?" It was a fair question, and one I'd been asking myself. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I want to get past it, but I don't know if I can." "What would it take?" "Time, consistency, proof that you really choose me, not just because Travis isn't an option, but because you actually want to be married to me." "I do want to be married to you." "Then show me, not with words but with actions. Show me that I'm your priority, that our marriage matters more to you than anything else." "How?" "I don't know, Jules. That's something you'll have to figure out." She nodded, and I could see her mind working, trying to come up with a way to prove her commitment. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll show you. We'll see." It wasn't much of a declaration of love, but it was honest. And honesty, I was learning, was the only foundation strong enough to build a marriage on. Whether we could actually build something lasting remained to be seen. 6 months later, I was standing in the kitchen making coffee when Jules came downstairs carrying a suitcase. For a moment, my heart stopped. After everything we'd been through, after all the counseling and conversations and careful rebuilding of trust, was she leaving? "Going somewhere?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "We are," she said, smiling. "Pack a bag. We're going away for the weekend." "Where?" "It's a surprise, but wear something nice." An hour later, we were in her car heading north on I-95. Jules was driving, humming along to the radio, looking happier than I'd seen her in months. "Are you going to tell me where we're going?" "Nope, it's a surprise. I hate surprises. You'll like this one." She was right. When we pulled up to the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne, I understood what she was doing. "Jules, I booked us the penthouse suite," she said. "The real one this time. The one I should have appreciated when you got it for me the first time. You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. I wanted to show you that I don't need Travis Cole's version of the high life. I just need yours." The suite was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, marble everything, a balcony bigger than our living room. But the best part was watching Jules enjoy it without comparing it to anything or anyone else. "This is perfect," she said, standing on the balcony as the sun set over the water. "It is. Daniel?" "Yeah?" "I know I can't undo what I did. I know I hurt you and broke your trust and nearly destroyed our marriage. But I want you to know that I choose you. Not because you're safe or reliable or because Travis isn't available. I choose you because you're the man I want to grow old with. Jules, let me finish. I choose you because you fight for us even when I don't deserve it. I choose you because you see the best in me even when I can't see it myself. I choose you because you're my husband, and being your wife is the best thing I've ever done with my life." I pulled her into my arms and kissed her, and for the first time in months, it felt like we were really married again. "I choose you too," I whispered against her lips. "Even after everything?" "Especially after everything." We spent the weekend talking, laughing, making love, and remembering why we'd fallen for each other in the first place. It wasn't a magic cure for all our problems, but it was a beginning. On Sunday morning, as we packed to go home, Jules handed me an envelope. What's this? Open it. Inside was a letter, handwritten on hotel stationery. Dear Daniel, I know I've said I'm sorry 100 times, but I've never really explained what I'm sorry for. I'm sorry for being so focused on what I thought I wanted that I forgot to appreciate what I had. I'm sorry for letting fear and insecurity drive me to hurt the person I love most. I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough, when the truth is, you're everything. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of our lives, not because it's easy or safe, but because you're worth choosing, because we're worth fighting for. I love you. Your wife, Jules. I looked up to find her watching me nervously. Do you mean it? I asked. Every word. Then we're going to be okay. Are we? Yeah, we are. And for the first time since our honeymoon disaster, I actually believed it. The drive home was different from our first trip to Miami. This time, we talked about our future instead of our past. This time, Jules held my hand instead of texting other people. This time, we were really together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. We still had work to do, trust to rebuild, habits to change. But it was a real ending, built on honesty instead of fantasy, on choice instead of settling. And sometimes, real is better than perfect. As we pulled into our driveway, Jules squeezed my hand. Thank you, she said. For what? For not giving up on us. Thank you for giving me a reason not to. We went inside our house, our real house, not a penthouse suite or a fantasy, and started the rest of our lives together. It was exactly where we belonged.